Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. I hope you're all doing well. The main topic here is a fulfilled prophecy of Isaiah 19 that you may not be aware of. I'm pretty sure this is the fulfillment, so I'm going to get to that after I talk about some things. And what else was I going to say at the very end? Yes, that I just wanted to show you a short video of 10 different things that, if you're wondering yourself about the Latter-day Saints, or the Latter-day Saints Mormons, yes they are. They're like, I don't know, there's like 40 sects or something of Mormonism, and so if you're in that system at all, or you're considering going in that system, I want you to see this video. I'm just gonna play you 10 different things. Just remember this. Remember what Paul the Apostle said. If anyone or any angel from heaven preaches you another gospel, let him be accursed. What that's saying is stick to Scripture. Don't listen to men, and don't listen to people's traditions. Not to say that some traditions aren't good, but when they take the place of truth, that's when you're in trouble. That's why there's a reason why personally I've chosen to just to be Christian. That's it. I don't choose a denomination. I just believe what Yah says in his word. I find it, really safe that way. And it's just another, I didn't want to get caught in something that I didn't believe in. People say, what are you? What are you? Like, I believe in Jesus Christ. There. How about that? So before I get at this, I'm going to read this and I'm going to show you what it, I may not read the whole thing. But anyways, I'm going to get to some stuff first because it's been hard on me lately, to be honest. Speaking is very hard for me after, I don't know, say about half hour. My throat is squeezing really, really hard, and like I'm fighting, and you guys have no idea unless you suffer it yourself. So, by the time I'm done this video, and not edited, I will have put out another video. So by the time you see this, it would have already been played. With John Baptist, really Elijah. So I answered that. So hope you watch that. And actually, that's that's exciting to me because I didn't really, like, I knew the answer to it already, but I hadn't studied it in any depth. And the realization that it could be a double prophecy, meaning he may come again, meaning it may be a double prophecy. He may come twice, because it says before the great and awesome day of the Lord, and also make straight the paths, like in Isaiah. And so it's possible that he may come again before that day. So first, I just quickly wanted to talk about the world and helping people. I think helping people is good to do if you have the means. It doesn't mean money. It means if you're just able to help someone if they need help, if they're poor, if they need something physical done that they can't do themselves. Who knows? Maybe if it's to mentor someone who doesn't have a father. I've thought about doing that in any limited capacity that I can do, but things like that. And I don't mean works as in works to save us, because that stuff doesn't save us, but it helps others. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story, and then, but first I'm going to say this. There's a lot of, I don't know if you saw watch my other videos, but I talk a lot in it about, I've talked a fair amount about chosen ones. And, you know, I was just kind of really ticked off because I just think it's rude to call yourself a chosen one. And there's a lot of people calling themselves chosen ones that don't even read scripture, that don't. So I was kind of like, you know, okay, each to their own. But I've been looking out because in my journey, I've seen quite a few of those videos, and you can pick out the people who are really humble, the people who likely are chosen. And I really enjoy those videos. I really do. Just the things that people have been through, the upsets, you know, the truly painful things that we go through in our life, more than other people, like a lot more than other people. That just happens to be a commonality. And rising above. Just listening to it, it just reminds me, like, of the world. People who are out for themselves, they only care about themselves. They can't see past themselves. I'm not going to say people who don't donate. People who just never think of anything but themselves and getting more money and rich. People, the world. You know what the internet has done to people? There's some, you have no idea some of the things people send me or say to me that you never see. I know it comes with doing this, but and things that people would never say to your face. And I don't mean to be intimidating, but that's the way people are. I can't wait to be out of this world. I just can't wait to be away from a lot of abdominal pain, from a lot of my pain. But I want to be in a place where there's no deceit, there's no lies. You don't have to look over your shoulder. Yeah, I look over my shoulder. I do that. That, you know, you don't have to worry about someone who you think likes you, who may just be out for themselves, for attention, and then to mess you over type of thing. Everything. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you believe in Jesus Christ, by the signs that I see, take a look right now. Look at this geomagnetic storm that hasn't been like this since 2003. Listen, guys, these things just keep coming at us and coming at us and coming at us. And you know what? All the people I try to warn in my life, like family and all this type of stuff, goes in one ear and out the other, for the most part. I said, look out for this, look out for this, look out for this, look out for wars, look out for natural disasters. And they're off the scales. At least we can look forward to, I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but when I hear of a disaster, I get excited, but not excited for hurt. No, when I look and I see people hurt on camera, then just like Jesus would, it would make us quite sad, right? Why are people like that? people are just, I don't know, they're not able to look inside themselves and say, why do I do this? What do I get out of hurting somebody else? What's in it for them? They hurt you, and then for whatever reason, to make themselves feel better for a short period. Anyways, if you are chosen, I'm not gonna say chosen, okay? If you believe in Jesus Christ, and I know some people are predestined for sure, you might be very humble. You're just not like everyone else. And not to say good people, I mean, like, you know, people who believe in Jesus Christ, I think together are just a completely different breed. So, what else was I going to talk about? Get that in a sec. Here's what I mean. Sorry guys, I'm quite breathless right now, so I'd like gotta wait for these contractions to get better. Okay, I haven't been in a long-term anything in a long time, and I'm just putting this, I'm just trying to put this in a certain way. Because of my physical state and probably my abdominal pain, I could never go through anything like that anyways. But if I ever did again, how do you ever, after going through a narcissist, covert narcissist, who tried to take you down in little subtle ways, how do you ever, and all the experiences you've had in your life, but they happen for a reason, how do you find yourself able to trust somebody? How do you find someone who's like yourself, who's humble, who likes to be good to people, who is pure? There's the word, pure. I'm not saying I'm holy like God, but you try to be, right? What I mean is, at least I'm trying. I tell you, I think in a woman that's extremely rare. And I forget exactly what the Bible says. Like a woman is a prize, like a woman like that. You know, like when I think of meeting the perfect woman, I think of the story in Genesis of Isaac and Rebecca. That's what I think of. I think of Rebecca. Or how excellent it would be to be with a woman like Sarah, who's so humble, right? Who doesn't just leave you for no reason. In sickness and in health, and, you know, join together as a team. There aren't many people like that. I don't think there is. Anyways, you get my point, right? That's pretty much what I have to say about that. I wanted to talk about this. You know, I put in my things for donation, and I at least was giving. I think I decided to stop that yesterday for a certain reason, but I may continue to give 25% of my proceeds that I make from my own business to help the poor. And at first people were answering these things I put up, feeding the poor, and I did. And I want to tell you a story today of how that worked. And if you want to donate, this really truly does help someone. So I'm going to tell you a story. Excuse me. This is only people who can truly afford something like this. And I'm going to get at Isaiah 19, but I want to talk. So here's my point. A narcissist considers helping people a weakness. So I have a weakness for people who truly need help if they happen to be in my face. Listen to this. So this is why I'm asking you to donate. And I don't like doing it, but I know where it goes. I do it in person. I don't just give it away. It's me who is going out, to buy the food and going out to give it to them, or they come to me. So listen to this. Yahweh has his ways. You know that. He has his ways. He'll put people in your face for certain reasons. So I'm going to tell you, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. It's actually this is the third time, but this one feels kind of different. I have a disease in my spine. It's just inflammation. It was caused by hitting my coccyx, but it's mostly caused by getting epidurals and steroid shots in your spine. And no needles were ever meant to puncture the epidural space. That's just point blank. That's it. They were never meant to do that. Spinal taps, all those types of things. They start an inflammation process. It's the worst pain disorder on this earth, called adhesive arachnoiditis. Eventually the scar tissue builds and builds and builds, and it takes hold of all the nerves. It's like MS, but much more painful, and it attaches to the wall of your canal. So that's why you see me shifting all the time. He messages me and he says, I do need food, but I'm here, I'm in whatever place. I can't come and get it. I'm disabled and blah, blah, blah. But I think he messaged, quite honestly, just to say, it's good of you to do that, because that's not the first time someone's done that. And so I thought, oh, okay, now I kind of feel bad. I'm like, just after a while, I messaged back, where do you live? Okay, I'll go on the Sabbath day, right? I'll go on the Sabbath day. Don't muzzle an ox. Jesus healed on the Sabbath, right? So, I don't know, I just thought it'd be a good day to go on the Sabbath. So, this is still in the works. This is still going on. I'm trying to figure this out. So I'm able to click on his profile because I check people out, right? I'm going to check out if you're a liar, there's some things I can notice sometimes. Because people try to mess with your heads as I illustrate to you. So I see, okay, this is a real profile, and so I just look quickly. I see one post. I start reading through it, and he's got like a big bump on his head, and he's paralyzed, okay, from the waist down, and at one point he was completely paralyzed. And the story, anyway, so I start looking through the story. I'm like, oh my, this guy is complaining of wicked shocks going down his legs before he was paralyzed. And this was whatever number of years ago. And he's like, it goes from 0 to 10. Think of like sciatic, right? But worse. This is what he's going through. But he had an accident after, he fell on a table or something, woke up and he was completely paralyzed. But I'm like, I'm good at solving medical issues, okay? I know how to help people get diagnosis or walk towards a diagnosis. My dad is a diagnostician himself, but like father, like son, right? I just like doing this stuff. And seeing as how I have this disease, I'm like, chances are this is what the guy's got just by what I'm reading right here. He was diagnosed with something I'm not going to say because I don't want to give people's identities. He was first paralyzed the whole way, and then he got feeling back, so it could have just been a nerve. A nerve can do that in your spine. And happened next. So this is why the donation is good. Can't even afford his phone. He can't use his electric wheelchair because the batteries are dead. It was a nice scooter though. You know, starting to go downhill. And obviously those groceries take a lot of money off of what he's gonna have to pay. And he's at the point where he's growing. He had like potato. He had a whole garden in his apartment, like growing peppers and all that type of stuff. Really cool. So, you know, it's not nice to look at someone who could end up in a place where he doesn't want to be. So that's what I have to say about that. Let's get to this. So anyways, I'm quite sure I know what this guy has, even without knowing his story or anything else. So I start talking to him, and he said he believed that he got a diagnosis based on them not finding anything. But he's still paralyzed in a wheelchair. I feel bad for the guy. He's about to lose his apartment. He's about to lose a lot, okay? He's only got a phone on his Wi-Fi, no computer, no nothing. Anyway, so I went over and delivered food a couple times, and I've been talking to him, and he's trying to find out, you know, like, what's going on with me. He really wanted to know the answer and everything, and he may have the diagnosis that they gave him, but it was the one before that was causing the tremendous pain and eventually paralyzed. He still got paralyzed, so a lot of people with my disease are paralyzed, and I was virtually like that. I could still use my legs, but I was bed and couch bound for almost a decade. So I think it's possible that I was put in the pathway for that reason. Like, he gave every indication that he would have this disease based on him telling me that he got these many shots in his spine. He said he was getting worse after them. That is the indication of this disease. And I wouldn't be surprised me saying this in the video, that something's going to come to me later based on what I'm telling them. You got worse after a spinal tap or a steroid injection. I have all these wicked pains in my legs, and it's progressing. Trust me, quite a few people have come to me just based on that, but please don't come to me. No. So I'm not going to read all of Isaiah because I'm having difficulty speaking right now, but I will go through it anyways on this site, and I will leave this for you. Whether you agree with it or not, the reality is happening. You can perceive it any way you want, but I think it's pretty cool. The prophecy of the Euphrates, damn it. The prophecy of the Euphrates drying up is a consequence of dams. So there's dams being built all over Asia, you know, like all over that area, Africa, because people need water. And you do that and another country suffers. And so, what is it? I forget. Is it Syria that's suffering right now because of what Turkey's doing? I forget. There's something like that, but there's a lot of consequences. And so this one, you'll see what happens is that when you decide to block something, especially the Nile River, you put things out of whack, things that help and clean, like it's meant as a system from Yahweh. It's meant to be that way, so it cleans itself. But the Nile Delta and everything, let's just read through this together. And then I'll also go to, I think it's Quora or Reddit, because there's good explanations with this. So this picture, this is going to take place in the 70s in Egypt. Chapter 19. Now he turns to Egypt. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord rides upon a swift cloud, and he shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. Isaiah 19:1-2. So God's speaking here of a civil war. And he shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. There's going to be civil turmoil and war within Egypt, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers. Remember, idols and charmers, it may not look that like that today, okay? It's a symbol maybe for something else. And to them have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hands of the cruel Lord, a fierce king who shall rule over them, says the Lord of hosts. And then he begins to make some very interesting predictions. The water shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up, and they shall turn the rivers far away. The word here is translated in one of the new versions, and they shall dam the river far away. And the brooks of defense shall be emptied and dried up. The reeds and flags shall wither, the paper reeds by the brooks, by the mouths of the brooks, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. The fishers, so the fishermen, also shall mourn, and all they that cast their hook into the brooks shall lament, and they that spread their nets upon the water shall languish. Moreover, so it's quite obvious that something's going to happen to the Nile. Moreover, they that work in fine flax, and they that weave networks shall be confounded, and they shall be broken in the purposes thereof. All that make the sluices and ponds for fish. Surely the prince of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. How say you of the Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings. So when you read these, it's easy to look back and say, like the charmers of the times, like Exodus and stuff like that. But these are future, so they're just people in suits. Isaiah 19 was fulfilled, I think they said in 1970. And the basis of this prophecy being fulfilled is that, well, you'll see. It's about Egypt's counselors, the king and counselors, being stupid and not wise about something to do with the Nile River. And the truth of this, what I believe, is what happened in 1970 when they built a huge dam. I think this is awesome. I only learned this today because I'm studying Isaiah. Because studying Isaiah, I'll tell you, for me, isn't easy. It's probably the hardest of them all. That and Ezekiel. To learn the prophecies. Now here's a prediction that the river shall be dammed far away. The Aswan Dam surely answers to this prediction. As early as 1970, they began to discover some of the ecological problems that were created by the building of the Aswan Dam. In a report made to the Congress, and has become part of a congressional record, number S3448, in an ecological report, the first thing that they drew their attention to was the smog in Los Angeles as an ecological disaster. But the second thing was the DDT problem that since has been resolved by laws. But then the third was Egypt. And here's what it was said. The Aswan Dam has slowed down the Nile. 600 miles downriver, so it's the largest river in the world, longest. 600 miles downriver, the sandbars have stopped building up on the delta. The Mediterranean is flooding the delta, and on 1 million fertile acres have disappeared under salt water. Salt water will destroy it. Below the dam, snails carried the blood flukes of, excuse me. Sounds like I might have that. Of schistosomiasis. Sounds like what cats give you. And thousands of men and women and children are going to die of this painful, cruel disease. The Nile no longer carries its nutrient-rich sediment out to sea, and the fish are disappearing, and the fisheries, fishing families are moving to the slums of Cairo and Alexandria. The source of food is disappearing, also oxygen from the loss of the greenery and water. So we're talking about a place in history that is well known for this. And these dams are destroying a lot of stuff. You hear about the dams and the fights between the Indians, like India, you call them Indians, and the Chinese. Well, I think actually the Chinese are building that just to make them angry. But that's what they do. I'm not kidding you. They are having water wars there. There's a lot of water wars. It's too bad people have decided to do this type of stuff. Now, 10 years later, as further studies are made concerning the ecological damage of the building of the Aswan Dam, the first thing, of course, that the prophet here does talk about is a saltwater intrusion into the delta, the rich delta farmland area. And this has continued. The idea of damming up the Aswan was, of course, to create a control of the water flow into the irrigation canals and so forth, and hopefully to open up thousands of new agricultural acres by the irrigation projects. But they have discovered that through the saltwater intrusion and into the most fertile area of Egypt, into the delta, the Nile Delta, through the saltwater intrusion. And by the way, I think Africa is very angry at Egypt about this, about that dam. They have lost over twice the acreage, agricultural acreage, as they were gaining. Think about that. So it costs a lot to build a dam. You see, it used to be at the flood tide, as the Nile River would bring the silt into all, and would bring the silt and all into the Mediterranean, that it built up these silt dams against the Mediterranean, creating this very, very fertile delta area, much like we have in El Centro and so forth. I don't know what that is. That fertile area has been built up by the Colorado over the years. So he's talking about the Colorado. So they need the Nile River to naturally flood, to push the silt downstream. Now with the Nile no longer flooding, they've lost the agriculture area by saltwater intrusion from the Mediterranean. First thing he predicted, but not Isaiah. But not only that, all the reeds and so forth that used to grow along the Nile were killed because there's a little snail that sort of eats its roots. But it used to be carried away every year in the flood season. But now that there is no more flood season, these little snails have destroyed all the reeds and everything that used to be along the Nile River, even as Isaiah said. Now in 1970, the fishing industry was beginning to disappear. You'd think that'd be the fulfillment. You're going to have to go read Isaiah over again. Sorry, guys, it's just cutting off. It has now totally disappeared. It doesn't exist. They don't have any more fishing industry. There in the Mediterranean, there used to be tremendous schools of fish that supplied Egypt with one of its greatest protein sources. Just an overabundant supply of fish, because they would feed on the rich nutrients that were carried by the Nile River on the Mediterranean Sea. But now there is no great flooding and the carrying of these nutrients in the fish. They don't know what happened to them. It's just like those lobsters in Alaska. If they just left and gone someplace else or just disappeared, but there's no more fishing industry. It's amazing to me that 2,700 years ago, God inspired the prophet Isaiah not only to prophesy the building of the Aswan Dam as they turn away the river far away, but also to prophesy these ecological disasters that would be created by the damming of the Nile River. There has even been suggestions by the Egyptians that the Aswan River be blown up smart in order to correct the ecological disasters that have resulted from its building. I do so much better with doing video commentary to some video of whatever type, because reading is really tough for me, because it gives me a break, and I know I can take a break. I just trust me, it takes a long time to read this. It's interesting that at the end of the prophecy, he sort of takes off against those engineers and counselors and advise them to build the Aswan Dam. The counselors of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh has become brutish. How can they say, I'm wise, the son of the ancient kings? Remember I said they're in suits now. Where are they? Where are the wise men? And let them tell you now, and let them know what the Lord of hosts has purposed upon Egypt. Isaiah 19:12. Men are so wise, now let them tell you. God has already told you what damages are going to happen. These men are so wise, let them tell you what God has purposed. The princes of Zoan have become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man who staggers in his own vomit. What a graphic picture. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or the tail, branch or rush may do. In that day Egypt shall be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of the Lord of hosts, which he shakes over. And the land of Judah shall be a terror upon Egypt. Everyone that makes mention thereof shall be afraid of it in himself because of the counsel of the Lord of hosts, which he hath determined against it. And it's so interesting as we look at the situations today and see how clearly and concisely God has actually spoken of these things. Land of Judah even again becoming a terror unto Egypt. In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan and swear. Okay, so let me see here. So that part I'm not going to get into, and I don't even know if I believe this. I think they're making a good attempt. It's just I don't think I believe that. I'm going to leave this in the description box anyways, but I'm going to go to a Korah to tell you exactly what someone said. Before I read this, the perverse mind of, Yahweh called that perverse. That's perverse. Guys, when I'm like this, it's so hard to think of even just a regular word to illustrate how I want to say things. Counsel, perverse counsel. Frustration. What was I saying? When I think of perverse counsel, I think of something that's happening right now, which is, this green agenda. This green agenda is absolutely perverse. It's debased. It's the debased mind. It's a debased mind set. Why? Because for some odd reason, no matter how clean, the cleanest energy in the world is nuclear power. But yet the environmentalists shrug it off, or rather the higher-ups. If the higher-ups were more for it, of course the lower downs would be, because they're mostly uneducated. The people who protest. So, it just makes sense. Do you know that most uranium is its strength is 2% uranium. Like you find the ground has 2% uranium. You get it a lot from Russia, places like one of the Kazakhstan, but Canada has about 10% of the world's supply. They just found, listen to this. You hear about Iran, the grade of the uranium is getting up to 80 or 90. It's almost going to be at 90% this week, next week, this week, a month from now. That they've been saying for a decade or longer. So think about it. They have to bring it to like whatever percent. And the uranium is very expensive. Canada just found, not too long ago, a mine with like grade 60%. I'm not kidding you. 60% grade uranium. I think that's the richest in the world by far. They just found that in Canada. That's almost a nuclear bomb, like a nuclear dirty bomb, just pulling it out of the ground. Think about that. Lucky you didn't find that in Iran. Okay, so this person says the Aswan Dam, so this is a proven ecological disaster, has 5 main negative impacts. By blocking the river's flow, it causes silt to settle at the bottom of Lake Nasser instead of along the Nile banks in Egypt during floods or in the Nile Delta. So it's going to the bottom instead. It just sits there. That lack of silt has caused the Nile Delta to experience erosion because it's not on there now. And shrinkage instead of, so there's no flood to bring that into the delta, to carry it into the delta by the flood. And shrinkage instead of replenishment and growth. As a result, farmland is being lost and shorelines are receding. Because Lake Nasser lies in a very hot and dry region, and because it greatly increases the surface area of the Nile, it has caused substantial water loss through evaporation. Guys, these are the end times. This is what's like, they're literally stealing water from other countries. As a result of both the loss of silt and the decrease in the volume of the Nile's flow, the coastal waters off Egypt, which used to be a rich estuarine, like an estuary environment nourished by nutrients carried by the Nile, has become more of a dead zone due to the drop in the Nile's flow, as well as an increase in concentrations of agriculture insecticides, and other pollutants. Another result of the decrease in the volume of the Nile's flow is that salt water is penetrating further inland in the delta, in the Nile Delta, making farmland unusable before erosion eliminates it. So they're obviously doing that for like energy, obviously that's when you make it like a hydroelectric dam, but it's looking like it's outweighing its benefits. So if someone suggests blowing it up, then blow it up, do something else. I'm going to do this while I take a little rest so you can listen to this. Guys, this is worth knowing. I just looked this up quickly, but this is the truth. So if you're thinking about getting into Mormonism, I think there's 30 million people worldwide. Doesn't mean they're bad people, but the people who are teaching, I think that's a different story. Because those who teach, right? So let's just listen. Listen, if it's not the gospel of Jesus Christ, then it's nothing good. What I mean is the Old and New Testament.
Hey everyone, did you know that there's no difference, very little difference, between what Catholics believe and what Mormons believe? Some of you might be saying, I know. Some of you might be saying, well, that doesn't sound right. That's not right. No, it's not right. But that's what Mormons will tell you. Mormons will actually tell you to your face that there's no difference between Mormon religion and your religion except for one extra book, the Book of Mormon. So 2 Mormons came to my house once, and they found out I was Catholic, and they basically told me that there was no difference between my Catholic religion and their Mormon religion except for one book, the Book of Mormon. And that didn't sound right to me because I thought Mormons were really different. So I researched it and I found out that the Mormons have a whole array of different beliefs, even some quite wacky and eccentric beliefs.
So do Catholics, but the traditions of men, but it's not close to Mormonism.
I won't tell you those though, and I actually found out after talking to them for a year and a half. I asked them about all these odd beliefs that I had studied, and the first time they found out about it, they had a deer in the headlight look like, how did you find out about all of this? And they talked to me about it. So I'm giving you, in this video, what you need to know and what Mormons will not tell you. And in fact, they told me that they don't tell people what they really believe until they become a Mormon because they don't have the Holy Spirit and can't understand it. Let's see what we can't understand. Number one, they'll say, oh, you believe in the Trinity? We believe in the Trinity too. But what they won't tell you is that they believe that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are three separate gods. They're different gods. And in fact, another thing they won't tell you is that Mormons believe in millions of gods. They believe there's millions of gods out there, but they only worship one. And they'll tell you in their articles of faith that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are different gods, but are one in purpose. So they do believe in multiple gods, which is condemned in the Bible. The Bible says there is only one God. Number two, they actually believe that God, who they worship, who we worship, was once a man like us. See, God didn't create the universe. He actually worshipped another God on another planet, who in turn used to worship another God on another planet until they became gods and ruled their own planet. And now this is what our God is doing now. Why? What does that even mean? Well, they believe that God, who we worship, was once a man like us. They believe he was a man. And that man, by following all the laws of Mormon, actually achieved Godhead. He became his own God and achieved gaining his own planet.
Well, Jesus Christ did manifest in the flesh, was fully God and fully man. That was to fulfill the scriptures, though. So I just had to say that, obviously, so.
He used to live out by a star in some other galaxy, but now he rules over us here. And believe it, like John 4:24 actually says that God is spirit. That's what the Bible says. God is spirit. But Mormons teach that God the Father has a body of flesh and bones because he was a man like us. Moreover, Mormons believe that if they follow the Book of Mormon and all the laws of Mormon, that they too will become gods. They're going to become gods someday and own their own planet. Only if you're a guy, though. Sorry, ladies, you don't get to own your own planet. If you're a guy, you can become a god and own your own planet. Women, you basically have to become a spirit wife, and you help populate the planet for the rest of eternity.
That brings me to, and I haven't done a video about this, but I forget exactly where it is. It's a book of Hebrews. It says something to the effect like Yahweh made the worlds. So it has an S, plural. So don't, enlighten me. I haven't personally gone deep into that before. I have no need to, really. I would like to know, yes, but I know, there are obviously other worlds. We can see them. We know there are other planets, but they're not inhabited, and there are certainly not gods on them, so.
Doesn't that sound awesome? Sounds like a fantastic eternity. You basically just are a sexual, spiritual, concubine or something. It's quite bizarre, but basically Mormons believe that if they achieve to the highest heaven, because they believe in 3 levels of heaven, the highest one, the celestial kingdom, they're going to own their own planet, just like God owns his own planet now. Next, Mormons actually believe in a pre-existence, meaning that when the God and his spirit wife have relations, I guess, however it works, they have many, many, many kids. But these kids live in a realm, not earth, in a spiritual realm. They're all spirits and they're all roaming around. And then eventually they're given bodies and they come to earth. So when they're given bodies, then they come to earth, kind of like us. But before that time, they're eternal. They're up there forever and ever and ever for a really, really, really long time. Now, Jesus and Satan were both brothers in the pre-existence. That's what Mormons teach. And Satan actually rebelled against God, this God, in the pre-existence. And so when he came down, he was cursed as Satan. But Jesus and Satan were brothers, but he was cursed. Now, Cain, when he killed Abel, Mormons actually teach that Cain participated in the rebellion of the devil, and so God cursed him. And he gave him a curse so the rest of the world could see that Cain was cursed. And what was that curse, you ask? It was black skin.
Getting a massive attack in my left foot. If you just saw my face there, just like stabbing, just I don't know, or that just happens. But what was he saying? What was the topic there? Yes. So this is like Jehovah's Witness and I think Seventh-day Adventists, and I started to get into that belief for just a small bit, but I don't believe it, that the Archangel Michael is Jesus. Is it possible that in like part of the Old Testament that it's really Jesus they're talking about? Jesus is not the Archangel Michael. They're differentiated. He's not Satan's brother. And so if you want proof of that, like immediate proof of who Jesus Christ is, and not an angel, he's not created, he always was. Look at John 1. Make sure to look at John 1. It'll explain everything right there.
Dark skin, so that anyone who has dark skin could know that they participated with the devil in the pre-existence in the rebellion. See, the devil wasn't the only one to rebel up there. There were other spirits who rebelled up there too, and they were sent down to earth with dark skin, with black skin, so that everyone could know that they were cursed. And in fact, Mormons have taught for their whole history that blacks were cursed. And if you don't believe me, look up it in their own writings. You can look it up in the Book of Mormon. It's still there. In 2 Nephi 5, chapter 5, 17 and 21, it actually talks about the black people who were cursed. And it says if you convert, they will become white and blonde. Sounds pretty Third Reich to me, but that's what they believe. And that also goes for Hispanics, that also goes for Indians, and that goes for other dark races. They're all cursed and they need to convert to become white and blonde. And the Book of Mormon kind of talks all about that. And those who are fair-skinned. In fact, it wasn't until 19...
Wow, I have to turn it back. Sorry, guys. I have to jog my memory because there was something actually pretty good I was thinking of. I have to say.
And they were sent down to earth with dark skin, with black skin. The devil in the pre-existence, in the rebellion. See, yes. The devil wasn't the only...
That's how you jog your memory, so this is interesting. Have you ever thought... So, we know in Genesis that the angels left their abode, right? But when Satan had his fight with Michael and the good angels, what did it take, right? This is the biggest question, or one of the biggest questions. What did it take for Satan to sway? Excuse me. So we know there's at least 100 million angels. For all we know, there could be 1 billion. 33.3333%. What did he say? And why did these angels turn into demons? How did that many of them, let's just call it 30 million, 33.3 million, right? How were they swayed that much that they would go and do the most horrific things? The demons that I'm sure they have something to do with it. People would call it the Nephilim, but in your dreams, these things are trying to kill you. They're trying to squeeze at you. Thoughts that enter your mind during the day. Everything, every demonic, occult, all that stuff. How is it possible that many angels Was Satan really that smart to trick them? That's the question.
One to rebel up there. There were other spirits who rebelled up there too, and they were sent down to earth with dark skin, with black skin, so that everyone could know that they were cursed. And in fact, Mormons have taught for their whole history that blacks were cursed. And
well, I'm surprised because of that DEI, or what it's called, and this woke thing, I'm surprised they don't ban it. That very well may happen.
And if you don't believe me, look up it in their own writings. You can look it up in the Book of Mormon. It's still there. In 2 Nephi 5, chapter 5, 17 and 21, it actually talks about the black people who were cursed. And it says if you convert, they will become white and blonde. Sounds pretty Third Reich to me, but that's what they believe. And that also goes for Hispanics, that also goes for Indians, and that goes for other dark races. They're all cursed and they need to convert to become white and blonde, and the Book of Mormon kind of talks all about that, and those who are fair-skinned. In fact, it wasn't until 1978 when the Mormon Church received a new revelation that blacks were allowed into their priesthood. So that's just one thing. Kind of similar to that is their doctrine of polygamy, because that eventually changed with a new revelation too, because it was actually an eternal doctrine. That's what Mormons taught. Polygamy was an eternal doctrine that you had to practice in order to get to heaven. That's what was taught by their earliest prophets. Orson Hyde and Orson Pratt even taught that Jesus was a polygamist. And they were the Mormon prophets in the early days. They taught Jesus was a polygamist. I mean, what do you think the wedding of Cana was for? It was his wedding. I know. I didn't.
If you ask me, this religion, okay, this is a religion. This isn't Christianity. This is as blasphemous as it gets. It's just so far off. It's like, I can't believe they even allow this. There's no regulation. I've heard Muslims say that, and rightly so.
Say it. That's just what they believe. But they did believe that polygamy was an eternal doctrine. Now, that was until the United States actually came, because they moved out west, and they started seizing all of the Mormon assets and taking their money and that sort of thing, because Mormons weren't living according to the laws of the land. And since they were losing so much, they suddenly got a new revelation stating that polygamy was no longer acceptable, and you have to just get married to one wife. Now, a lot of Mormons, there's over 40 sects of Mormonism, and many all claim to be the right sect. But over 40 sects, and some of them actually still...
That's why you put your faith in Yahweh, Jesus Christ. You put your faith in Yahweh because he never changes, and his scriptures never change. There's no new revelations.
Practice polygamy, because they say that the teachings of polygamy were an eternal doctrine that can never be changed, even if the government comes in and threatens you. So they actually still practice polygamy today, and they believe that they are the true Mormons, and the majority of Mormons that you see around you today are the fakes, because they got rid of God's law. So there's some turmoil within Mormonism, but that's the belief. The majority of the Mormons you see today don't practice polygamy, and haven't for quite some time. As I hinted at before, Mormons believe in 3 different heavens: the telestial, the terrestrial, and the celestial heaven. The celestial is the highest, and that's where all good Mormons hope to go. Next, Mormons don't believe in drinking coffee. They don't believe in drinking Coke or anything with caffeine in it at all. And in fact, the Mormons were so proud of themselves when they came to my house once, because they had this guy almost converted to Mormonism. It was just, he was Hispanic though, and he drinks coffee every day. He couldn't get this out of his life, and he didn't really want to give it up. So the Mormons said they snuck into his house when he wasn't home. They stole his coffee maker, and they basically threw it away for him. And he's like, great, thank you. Now I'm going to become Mormon. And he did. The Mormons were so proud of themselves for stealing his coffee maker. But that's what they believe. They believe caffeine is evil and you can't drink caffeine. So if you love Coke, you love coffee, you may want to stay away from Mormonism. Also, last but not least, second to last but not least, is baptism for the dead. They actually baptize people who are already dead. Why do you think all these ancestry things that are so popular today, they're all run by Mormons, or almost all of them, because the Mormons are obsessed with ancestry. They want to find every single person who ever lived, as many as possible, because they believe in baptizing you when you're dead. So if you were an atheist and you didn't believe, that's all right. They'll baptize you when you're dead and you're okay. You'll make it to one of the heavens, so you're good.
And you know what? It's not to say, like I said in the beginning, it's not that people aren't good in this. I'm sure there's a ton of good Mormons. And by the way, there was like a TED talk I did a commentary on of a Mormon who turned to Christianity, and his spirit came upon him. You can look way back. You'll see it. You'll see it in the thumbnail. But I think he's leaving out one of the biggest truths, which is Joseph Smith. I don't know a ton about him. Supposedly he found these gold tablets buried in the ground or something with the truth written on them, but he all of a sudden lost them or something. Sounds to me like what happened to Muhammad in the cave and the angel Gabriel when it was really Satan. I can prove it. I proved it in my video already. Why? Because he didn't know if he was having sex with his wives or not for a full year. He was demonically possessed. You can look back in my videos about that. I can prove it again too.
The last belief, and again, there's many more, but the last belief, and one of my personal favorites, is that John the Apostle, you remember the John who wrote the Gospel of John? He was Jesus' apostle. Yeah, him. They actually believe that John is still walking the earth today. Mormons believe that St. John, 2,000 plus years later, is still walking the earth today. He's still around. He's still performing miracles.
You know why they say that immediately? Remember, he says, one of you standing among here will not see death. And everyone thinks of John right away, right? And remember, they tried to boil John with oil, and he wouldn't die. And you know what? Fair enough. He saw transfiguration. So he saw that, but also, so there's the answer. That, and when he was 95 years old, he did get to see. Jesus gave him the revelation of Jesus Christ. So they twist it. The Mormons twist things every which way.
Still wandering and, converting people to the kingdom. Now my whole next video is going to be on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I asked the Mormons, I was like, don't you think it's kind of weird that in 2,000 years, there hasn't been a single solitary St. John sighting? No newspaper anywhere, no TV, no radio, no reporter, no person has ever seen the Apostle St. John. Isn't that a little weird to you? Where is he right now? And they said, well, he's probably somewhere in Africa, converting people. I'm like, please. I was like, we have news everywhere. No one in 2,000 years has had a St. John sighting. And in fact, St. John is not the only person who's been around for 2,000 years. And Mormons actually believe that other people will be on earth until the end of time, meaning they're already eternal. They're living forever on earth, like St. John the Apostle. Now, these are only some of the beliefs of Mormons. There's a lot of beliefs that Mormons believe that are really out there. And they came upon, if you read the Book of Mormon, it's pretty monotheistic. It's pretty close to the Catholic religion. And it wasn't until the later revelations that Joseph Smith had, like there's many gods and polygamy and all of these other things, that Mormons really began to devolve into something very much closer to Scientology or one of those weird cults out there. But I can tell you that Mormons and Catholics are very different, and these are just some of the things that Mormons will not tell.
So what's the synopsis of this? You got the gist of that Aswan Dam. Pretty straightforward. I just think it made prophecy. It makes perfect sense. That's what happens when you play with Mother Nature, and you can see that with what happened in Dubai, with all that killer rainstorms, flooding. Not to say it's cloud seeding for sure, but Sure looks like it. Listen, if it's, when the Bible says there's going to be all these types of signs, they can be done by man too, and just Yahweh puts it down as a sign because He knows they're going to happen. A lot of the manipulation by men of many things, including our bodies, of what they're doing right now, AI, and trying to get under our skin and stuff. But here's my message with this. Be careful who you decide to keep company with as far as Christianity goes. Mormonism isn't real Christianity, okay? When you look at and how insane these beliefs are. But do they believe in Jesus Christ? Sure. Remember what Paul the Apostle says. If anyone, even an angel from heaven, preaches another gospel, let him be accursed. Let the scriptures speak against it. So, the first woman I ever loved, truly loved, was Mormon. I was Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic. I'm just Christian. I'm just a Christian. I love Jesus Christ. I want to go to heaven on earth. And I have a Jehovah's Witness friend that I see every once in a while, go on a walk with him. I don't see any problem with that because most of the stuff that I believe in, he also believes in. I know that his beliefs are not going to intertwine with mine. My discernment is too good at this point. I'm not going to let that happen. And I think it's good for Christians to get together and to be brothers and sisters. That is what I believe. But if they're trying to convert you to things that are so twisted, that's when you know you have to leave. Anyways, y'all bless everyone. I hope this has edified someone in some way. Yeah. Have a good rest of your weekend. Well, this will be out by, I think, Sunday night, and I would have put out another video about is John the Baptist, who was Elijah to come, that was prophesied. So anyways, see you later, guys.